Have you ever been betrayed by someone you thought would always have your back? That moment when you realize the person you trusted most has turned their back on you without a second thought? That's exactly what happened to me with my sister, and the worst part? She came crawling back when she needed something from me. My name is Harper Lawson, and I'm 30 years old. 5 years ago, my entire world shattered when my own sister, my flesh and blood, decided I wasn't positive enough to attend her wedding. The same sister who's now desperately calling me for financial help. Funny how life works, isn't it? If you've ever experienced betrayal from a family member, or if you're going through something similar right now, you might want to stick around. My story might just give you the courage to stand up for yourself when the time comes. Growing up in our small Ohio town, Madison and I were inseparable. We shared everything: a bedroom with walls covered in boy band posters, whispered secrets long after Mom told us to go to sleep, and dreams of the amazing lives we'd build someday. She was 2 years older, beautiful and popular, while I preferred hiding behind books and sketchpads. But despite our differences, I thought our bond was unbreakable. Madison would braid my hair before school and defend me fiercely when kids made fun of my thrift store clothes or my quiet nature. And Billy Thompson called me Harper the Horror in 6th grade. Madison cornered him behind the gymnasium and made him apologize with tears in his eyes. That's the sister I knew. That's the sister I loved. We'll always be there for each other, Harp, she used to tell me, pinky fingers locked tight. No matter what. Sisters before misters. Remember? Those words would echo in my mind years later as I stared at my phone, reading the email that uninvited me from her wedding. The same words that haunt me now when her name flashes on my caller ID, her voice desperate for my help. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand how drastically things changed, how I went from the forgotten sister to the one holding all the cards, you need to know our whole story. Our parents, Linda and Greg, worked themselves to the bone trying to give us a decent life. Dad pulled double shifts at the factory, while Mom cleaned houses and worked part-time at the local diner. Money was always tight, but love wasn't. At least that's what Mom always said, when we couldn't afford the brand-name jeans or summer camp that our classmates enjoyed. Madison, though, she was determined to have more. From an early age, she had this uncanny ability to charm her way into anything. When she wanted new clothes, she'd babysit for the neighbors. When she wanted to go to cheerleading camp, she'd organize car washes until she raised every penny. I admired her drive, her refusal to accept our financial limitations. You need to be more like your sister, Mom would say, not unkindly, when I'd rather read in my room than hustle for things I didn't really need. Madison knows what she wants, and she did. Madison was our high school's golden girl, head cheerleader, homecoming queen, student council president. Everyone knew her name, everyone wanted to be her friend. I was just Madison's little sister, a label I wore without complaint, because honestly I was proud to be associated with her. While Madison thrived in the spotlight, I found my own quiet path. I discovered I had a knack for numbers. Math made sense to me in a way people often didn't. It was predictable, logical, solvable. When Madison needed help with her algebra homework, I'd explain equations until her frustrated tears dried up. When she wanted to budget for prom, I created spreadsheets that impressed even our financially strapped parents. My little sis is going to be a millionaire someday, Madison would joke, messing up my hair affectionately. And then you'll buy me a mansion, right? I always laughed and agreed. After all, I couldn't imagine a future where we weren't supporting each other, celebrating each other's successes. After high school, our paths naturally diverged. Madison got accepted to NYU with a partial scholarship. Not enough to cover everything, but with student loans and our parents draining their modest savings, she made it work. I still remember the day we dropped her off at her dorm. She hugged me tightly, tears streaming down her face. "I'm going to miss you so much, Harp," she whispered. "You'll be too busy becoming famous to miss anyone," I teased, but my own tears betrayed me. I stayed closer to home, attending Ohio State on a full academic scholarship. It wasn't the glamorous New York life Madison was living, but it suited me. I double majored in finance and economics, graduating summa cum laude while working part-time at a local bank. My path wasn't flashy, but it was steady and true to who I was. Those first couple of years, Madison called regularly. She'd gush about New York, the people, the parties, the possibilities. I'd listen for hours, happy to experience the big city vicariously through her. But gradually, the calls became less frequent. When she did call, it was usually because she needed something. Money for textbooks her loan didn't cover, advice on an internship application, or just an ego boost after a bad date. I never minded. That's what sisters are for, right? After college, I landed a job at a credit union in Columbus. The starting salary wasn't impressive, but the benefits were good, and I saw potential for growth. I rented a tiny one-bedroom apartment, lived frugally, and started saving aggressively. By 25, I had an emergency fund, the growing 401k, and was researching investment properties. Meanwhile, Madison's Instagram looked like a lifestyle magazine. Brunches at trendy cafes, rooftop parties with stunning city views, designer clothes I knew she couldn't afford on her entry-level marketing salary. But that was Madison, always finding a way to live the life she wanted, even if it meant maxing out credit cards or charming her way into exclusive events. "How do you afford all this?" I asked once during one of our increasingly rare phone calls. She laughed that carefree laugh of hers. "You only live once, Harper. I'll worry about saving when I'm old and boring." It was a dig, however subtle, at my more practical lifestyle. But I brushed it off. We were different people with different priorities. I was proud of my growing net worth, even if it didn't translate to Instagram-worthy moments. If you're watching this, you might know what it's like to choose a different path than what's expected. Maybe you're the saver in a family of spenders, or the quiet one in a household of extroverts. I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. Have you ever felt judged for making responsible financial choices? Drop a like if you've been there. It was during one of Madison's visits home for Christmas that she first mentioned Carter. She couldn't stop talking about him, his family's beach house in the Hamptons, his connections in the finance world, the expensive restaurants he took her to. "He's the one, Harper," she gushed, eyes sparkling. "I just know it." I was happy for her, truly. But something about the way she described him, or rather, the way she described his wealth, left me uneasy. The following Thanksgiving, Madison brought Carter home to meet the family. He arrived in a sleek rental car, wearing a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than our parents' monthly mortgage payment. He was handsome in that polished, privileged way, and had the confident demeanor of someone who'd never heard the word no. Throughout dinner, Carter barely engaged with my parents or me. He checked his phone constantly, asked condescending questions about our quaint little town, and seemed bored by any conversation that wasn't about him or his family's achievements. "Your sister's quite the catch," he told me at one point, his arm possessively around Madison's waist. "She fits right in with my crowd in New York. It's like she was born for that life." Madison beamed at the compliment, but I caught something else in her expression. Relief, maybe. As if she'd finally escaped her humble beginnings and didn't want to be reminded of them. That weekend, I tried to have a heart-to-heart with her. "Are you happy, Mads? Really happy?" She looked at me like I'd asked if water was wet. "Of course I am. Carter's amazing, my job's going well, I live in the greatest city in the world. Why wouldn't I be happy?" I hesitated. "It's just, you seem different, like you're playing a role." Her face hardened. "Just because I'm not counting pennies and planning for retirement at 25 doesn't mean I'm playing a role. This is who I am now, Harper. Maybe you're just jealous." The accusation stung, especially because there was a grain of truth to it. Not that I was jealous of her lifestyle, but I did miss my sister, the real Madison, not this glossy version who seemed to value status over substance. 6 months later, Madison called screaming with excitement. Carter had proposed on a yacht in the Mediterranean, with a diamond so large it could probably be seen from space. She was planning a summer wedding in the Hamptons. And she wanted me to be her maid of honor. "It's going to be the wedding of the century," she declared. "I need you to help make it perfect, Harper. You're the only one I trust to get it right." Despite our growing differences, her words warmed my heart. Maybe this was our chance to reconnect, to bridge the gap that had been widening between us. I accepted immediately, ignoring the warning bells in my mind. I had no idea that saying yes to being her maid of honor would lead to one of the most painful experiences of my life. The wedding planning began immediately. Madison created a shared digital folder with spreadsheets, mood boards, and vendor information. This was my realm: organization, budgeting, planning, and I threw myself into it with enthusiasm. But it quickly became clear that this wasn't going to be the bonding experience I'd hoped for. Madison had transformed into what can only be described as a nightmare bride. Nothing was good enough. The flowers weren't exotic enough. The menu wasn't sophisticated enough. The venue, despite costing more than a college education, had lighting issues that kept her up at night. Carter's family has expectations. She'd snap whenever I suggested more reasonable alternatives. I can't disappoint them. I flew to New York 5 times in 3 months for various appointments, dress fittings, cake tastings, venue visits. Each trip cost money I could have been investing, but I did it gladly. This was my sister's big day, and I wanted to support her. The bachelorette party became another source of tension. Madison wanted a week-long extravaganza in Paris. When I gently pointed out that most of her hometown friends couldn't afford international travel, she scoffed. Then they're not real friends. My New York girls understand that this is a once-in-a-lifetime celebration. I organized 2 events, a luxury weekend in New York for her city friends, and a spa day back home for those who couldn't make the bigger trip. Madison attended both but made it clear that the hometown celebration was an obligation, not a pleasure. 3 months before the wedding, I was addressing invitations when Madison called. Her voice was tight, controlled in a way that immediately set me on edge. "We need to talk about your dress," she said without preamble. "What about it?" I asked. We'd already chosen the bridesmaids' dresses, elegant sage green gowns that cost more than my monthly rent. "I don't think the color works with your complexion. You looked washed out in the photos from the fitting." I was confused. "But all the bridesmaids are wearing the same color. That's what you wanted." "Yes, but they can pull it off. You just can't." She paused. "I'm thinking you should wear a different dress. Maybe something less prominent." The implication was clear. I wasn't attractive enough to stand near her in the wedding photos. The hurt was immediate and sharp, but I swallowed it down. "Whatever you want, Mads, it's your day." The conversation left me uneasy, but I tried to brush it off as pre-wedding stress. Then came the calls about my hair. "Could you maybe get extensions?" "My makeup?" "You'll need professional help. Your usual look won't work." Even my weight. "The dress would hang better if you lost 10 pounds. Each comment chipped away at my self-esteem, but I endured it. Family comes first, I told myself. This will all be worth it when I see her happy on her wedding day. Then came the email that changed everything. It arrived on a Tuesday morning while I was at work. The subject line read simply, "About the wedding." I opened it, expecting details about the rehearsal dinner or final dress alterations. Instead, I read, "Harper, after careful consideration, Carter and I have decided to make some changes to our wedding party. The energy of our special day is extremely important to us, and we need to surround ourselves with people who truly understand and support the life we're building together. While I value our history, I feel that your attitude toward our wedding and our relationship has been less than supportive. Your constant suggestions of more affordable options and reluctance to fully embrace the vision we have for our celebration have created unnecessary stress during what should be the happiest time of our lives. For these reasons, we think it's best if you don't participate in the wedding as my maid of honor or attend as a guest. This decision wasn't easy, but I need to prioritize positive energy on my special day. I hope you can understand and respect our wishes." Madison, I read the email 3 times, unable to process the words. My sister, my own sister, was uninviting me from her wedding. For being too practical? For trying to help her avoid financial strain? For not being positive enough? The office bathroom became my refuge as tears streamed down my face. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. All I could feel was a crushing weight of rejection and humiliation. I called my mother that evening, my voice still shaky from crying. "Did you know about this?" I asked after reading her the email. Her silence was answer enough. "She talked to us last week," Mom finally admitted. "She said you two were having creative differences about the wedding." "Creative differences? Mom, she's uninviting me from her wedding. Doesn't that seem extreme to you?" My mother sighed deeply. "It's her day, Harper. If this is what she needs to be happy, what about my happiness?" I demanded. Doesn't that matter to anyone? Another pause. Of course it does, sweetie. But you know how Madison gets when she sets her mind on something. And Carter's family? They're very particular about appearances. I hung up shortly after, feeling more alone than I ever had in my life. My own parents weren't willing to stand up for me. In their eyes, Madison's feelings would always take priority. I didn't respond to the email. What was there to say? My sister had made her choice, and my family had made theirs. I was expendable, forgettable, an inconvenience to be discarded when I no longer served a purpose. That night, lying in bed with swollen eyes and a broken heart, I made a promise to myself. I would never again put myself in a position where someone could discard me so easily. I would build a life so solid, so successful, that I would never need to depend on anyone who didn't value me. Little did I know then how completely that promise would transform my life, and how ironic its outcome would be. The morning after receiving Madison's email, I woke up with a clarity I'd never experienced before. The hurt was still there, a dull ache in my chest, but alongside it was something new, determination. I'd always been ambitious in my quiet way, but now that ambition had a different edge to it. I wasn't just working toward financial security anymore. I was working toward complete independence, financial, emotional, and familial. If you've ever had that moment where pain transforms into purpose, hit that like button. Sometimes our deepest wounds become our greatest motivators. My first step was focusing on my career. I signed up for every certification program my company offered. I volunteered for projects nobody wanted. I networked with executives at industry events. Within 6 months, I was promoted to financial advisor with a 30% salary increase. But that was just the beginning. I started researching real estate investment in Columbus. The market was growing. And with my financial background, I understood the numbers better than most first-time investors. I lived on half my income, saving every possible penny. At night, I devoured books and podcasts about wealth building, passive income, and financial independence. Instead of crying over my sister's betrayal, I channeled that energy into creating a blueprint for my future. Madison's wedding came and went. I saw the photos on social media, a lavish affair with ice sculptures, celebrity performers, and a guest list that apparently included everyone but her own sister. My parents attended, of course. They sent me awkward texts afterward, saying they missed me, but offering no real acknowledgement of the injustice that had occurred. I didn't respond to those texts either. I was too busy taking action. 1 year after the Uninvitation, I put a down payment on my first investment property, a duplex in an up-and-coming neighborhood. I lived in one unit and rented out the other, essentially living for free while building equity. It wasn't glamorous, but every mortgage payment felt like a victory. Around the same time, I started offering financial coaching sessions to women in my community. It began as a small side hustle, just a few clients, mostly friends of friends who needed help with budgeting or debt reduction. I charged minimal fees, focusing instead on building my reputation. Word spread quickly. There was something powerful about my approach. I wasn't just giving financial advice. I was helping women claim their independence, just as I was claiming mine. My clients didn't just leave with budget spreadsheets. They left with a sense of empowerment. "You've changed my life," one client told me after paying off $30,000 in credit card debt. "For the first time, I feel in control." Her words struck a chord. Control. That's what I had been seeking all along. Not revenge against Madison, not validation from my parents, but control over my own destiny. 2 years after Madison's wedding, I launched a YouTube channel focused on financial literacy for women. I shared practical advice, investment strategies, and most importantly, my own journey from financial novice to savvy investor. I was authentic, occasionally vulnerable, but always empowering. The channel resonated in ways I never expected. 10,000 subscribers in the first month, 50,000 by the third, 100,000 before the end of the year. Comments poured in from women around the world who saw themselves in my story. "Thank you for teaching me what no one else would. I left my toxic relationship because your videos showed me I could support myself. You're the big sister I never had." That last comment brought tears to my eyes. The irony wasn't lost on me. I had lost a sister only to become one to thousands of strangers. By my 29th birthday, I owned 3 rental properties, had quit my day job to run my coaching business full-time, and was earning more from my YouTube channel than I ever had at the credit union. I moved out of my duplex into a beautiful downtown condo with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the city skyline. For the first time in my life, I felt truly successful. Not just financially, but personally. I had built something meaningful from the ashes of rejection. I hadn't spoken to Madison in over 2 years. Sometimes I'd see updates about her life through mutual friends or distant relatives. She and Carter had bought a penthouse apartment in Manhattan. They traveled extensively. They attended galas and charity events. On the surface, her life looked perfect. But social media can be deceiving. Something I've learned over the years is that the more someone showcases their perfect life online, the more cracks there usually are behind the scenes. It was a random Tuesday when those cracks finally revealed themselves. I was in the middle of recording content for my channel when my phone lit up with a name I never expected to see again: Madison Lawson Pierce. My finger hovered over the decline button. 2 years of silence, and now she wanted to talk? Part of me wanted to reject her call just as she had rejected me. But curiosity, and perhaps a small, stubborn flicker of sisterly love, made me answer. "Hello?" I kept my voice neutral, professional. There was a pause, then a shaky inhale. "Harper, is that really you?" She sounded different, smaller somehow, her usual confidence notably absent. "It's me," I confirmed. "What do you need, Madison?" Another pause. "How did you know I needed something?" I almost laughed. "You uninvited me from your wedding and haven't spoken to me in over 2 years. I doubt you're calling to catch up." She started crying then, soft at first, then building to deep, gut-wrenching sobs that made it impossible to maintain my emotional distance. Despite everything, this was still my sister. "Madison, what's wrong? Are you hurt? Are Mom and Dad okay?" "Everyone's physically fine," she managed between sobs. "But God, Harper, everything's falling apart." Over the next 20 minutes, Madison poured out a story of financial disaster. Carter's family business, the source of their seemingly endless wealth, had collapsed under allegations of fraud. His father was facing potential criminal charges. Their assets were frozen. Carter had lost his job at his father's company and was struggling to find work elsewhere, tainted by the family scandal. "We're 3 months behind on our mortgage," Madison admitted, her voice small. "The credit cards are maxed out. We might lose the apartment." I listened without interrupting, a strange sense of déjà vu washing over me. How many times had I sat silently while Madison talked about her problems, expecting me to fix them? "I didn't know who else to call," she continued. "Mom and Dad don't have the resources to help. Carter's friends have all disappeared. You're my only hope, Harper." There it was, the reason for her sudden reappearance in my life. Not love, not remorse, need. "What exactly are you asking for, Madison?" I knew the answer, but I wanted to hear her say it. She hesitated, then, alone, "Just until Carter finds a new position. We need about $50,000 to catch up on everything and stay afloat for a few months." $50,000. The amount was substantial, but not impossible for me now. That was perhaps the most surreal part of this conversation. I could actually afford to help her if I wanted to. "I'll pay you back every penny, I swear," she rushed on, mistaking my silence for hesitation. "With interest, whatever terms you want." "Let me think about it," I said finally. "I'll call you back tomorrow." As I hung up, a whirlwind of emotions swept through me. Vindication, satisfaction, pity, anger, love, resentment, all swirling together in a complicated cocktail that left me dizzy. The tables had turned so completely, so dramatically, that it felt almost scripted. The sister who had discarded me for not being good enough, for not fitting into her wealthy, picture-perfect life, was now begging for my financial assistance. The irony was almost too perfect. That night, I barely slept. Madison's call had unlocked a flood of memories and emotions I thought I'd processed long ago. I found myself revisiting moments from our childhood, searching for signs that should have warned me about her capacity for betrayal. Had she always been this self-centered? Or had New York and Carter's influence transformed her into someone who could so callously cut off her own sister? More importantly, what did I owe her now? The easy answer was nothing. She had severed our relationship when it became inconvenient. I had no obligation to rescue her from the consequences of her choices. But family is never that simple, is it? If you're still watching, I'd love to know what you would do in my situation. Would you help a family member who had hurt you deeply, but was now in genuine need? Sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones where both choices feel wrong in different ways. The next morning, I called Madison back. Her voice was eager, hopeful. The voice of someone who believes salvation is at hand. "Harper, thank you for calling back. I was worried." "Before we discuss anything," I interrupted, "I need some answers." Silence on the other end, then a subdued, "Okay. Why did you really uninvite me from your wedding?" She sighed heavily. "Do we have to do this now? We're in a desperate situation and—" "Yes, we have to do this now," I said firmly. $50,000 buys me the right to some honest answers. Another long pause. "It wasn't entirely my decision," she finally admitted. "Carter and his parents, they thought you didn't fit with the image they wanted for the wedding." The blunt admission hurt more than I expected. "And you went along with that? You chose their image over your own sister." "You don't understand the pressure I was under." Madison's voice rose defensively. "His family was paying for everything. They had expectations. I was trying to build a life in their world. A world that didn't include me. It wasn't personal, Harper. You were just so different from everyone else in our circle. You didn't dress right. You didn't talk about the right things. You were always questioning the costs, making me look unsophisticated in front of Carter's family." Each word felt like a slap, but I remained calm. "So you discarded me because I was an embarrassment to you?" "That's not fair," she protested weakly. "Isn't it? You uninvited me from the most important day of your life because I didn't fit your new image. You didn't even have the courage to tell me to my face. You sent an email. And now when you need something from me, suddenly I'm worthy of your attention again." Madison started crying again, but this time I didn't feel the pull to comfort her. Years of therapy had helped me recognize the pattern. Her tears had always been an effective tool to shift focus from her actions to her emotions. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know I hurt you. I know I can't take it back. But we're desperate, Harper. We might end up homeless. Where are all the wedding gifts? The designer clothes? The luxury vacations?" "We spent it all," she admitted. "Carter said appearances were important for his career. We had to look successful to be successful." I almost laughed at the irony. While Madison had been maintaining appearances, I'd been building actual wealth, quietly, steadily, without anyone's validation. "I need to know something else," I said. "Did you even try to contact me before things got this bad, or am I just your last resort?" Her silence was answer enough. "That's what I thought," I said quietly. "Madison, I've built a good life for myself. I have financial security, a successful business, real estate investments. Do you know how I did it?" "Hard work," she ventured. "Yes, but more than that. I did it by being honest with myself and others, by living within my means until I could expand them, by valuing substance over appearance." I paused. "All the things you and Carter rejected along with me." The silence stretched between us, filled with years of unspoken truths. "So you won't help us?" Madison finally said, her voice small and defeated. "I didn't say that," I replied, "but I won't just write you a check, either." Hope flickered in her voice. "What will you do?" "I'm offering you something more valuable than money," I said. "I'm offering you the knowledge and tools to fix your situation permanently, not just temporarily." "What does that mean?" "It means I'll help you create a financial recovery plan. I'll teach you budgeting, debt management, and how to live authentically within your means. I'll help you find resources for job training if you need it, but I won't enable the same patterns that got you into this mess." "But we need money now," she protested. "The bank won't wait for us to learn budgeting." "I'll help with the immediate crisis," I conceded, "but not with a blank check. We'll sit down together, go through your finances, and I'll pay essential bills directly. Mortgage, utilities, necessities. No luxury items, no credit card debt from designer purchases. You want to control how we spend your money? She sounded indignant, despite her desperate situation. Yes, I said simply. Because it's not a gift, it's an investment in your future. And like any investment, I want to make sure it's used wisely. There was a long pause before Madison spoke again. When did you become so assertive? The question made me smile despite myself. When I realized no one else was going to advocate for me. When I understood that my worth isn't determined by other people's approval. The day I got uninvited from your wedding was the day I stopped waiting for permission to live my best life. The weeks that followed were transformative for both of us. Madison and Carter initially resisted my conditions, especially Carter, whose pride was clearly wounded by needing his formerly estranged sister-in-law's help. But desperation is a powerful motivator. I flew to New York and spent a weekend going through their finances. The reality was even worse than Madison had described. Designer clothes with tags still attached. Subscription services they never used. A wine collection worth thousands gathering dust because it was too valuable to drink. Their lifestyle wasn't just unsustainable, it was built entirely on appearances. Isn't about shaming you, I explained as Carter stormed out of the room during our first budget meeting. This is about helping you build something real. Madison stayed, though her eyes were filled with tears. I don't know how to live any other way anymore. She confessed. This life, it's all I have. No, I said gently. You have so much more than this. You're smart, resourceful, charming when you want to be. Those qualities don't come from your address or your clothes. Slowly, painfully, we created a plan. I paid their mortgage arrears and set up 3 months of future payments to give them breathing room. I helped Madison update her resume and practice for interviews. I connected Carter with a college friend who worked at a financial services firm willing to look past his family's scandal. Most importantly, I taught them both what I'd been teaching my clients and YouTube subscribers for years. How to distinguish between wants and needs. How to find fulfillment outside of consumption. How to build wealth slowly but surely. It wasn't easy. There were arguments, tears, and more than once, I questioned whether I was wasting my time and money. But something kept me going, not just love for my sister, but a belief that this experience could heal us both. If you're facing a challenging relationship with a family member, remember that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is set boundaries. True reconciliation can't happen without honesty and accountability. One evening, as Madison and I sat in her kitchen, now stocked with affordable groceries instead of gourmet delicacies, she looked at me with clear eyes. I don't deserve your help, she said quietly, after what I did to you. This isn't about deserving, I replied. It's about choosing to break cycles instead of perpetuating them. She reached across the table and took my hand. The first genuine gesture of affection between us in years. When did my little sister get so wise? I smiled. Around the same time she stopped trying to be someone she's not. Madison nodded, tears in her eyes. I'm sorry, Harper. Not just for the wedding, but for everything. For making you feel less than. For choosing status over my own sister. I was wrong, and I lost something precious because of it. Those words, that acknowledgement, meant more to me than any apology I could have imagined. It wasn't just about the wedding anymore. It was about years of subtle devaluation, of being made to feel I wasn't enough. 3 months after that first desperate phone call, Madison landed a job at a boutique marketing firm. The salary was half what she'd made before, but it was honest work with growth potential. Carter eventually found a position too, humbler than his previous role, but steady. They downsized to a modest apartment in Brooklyn, sold most of their luxury items, and slowly began rebuilding their finances following the principles I'd taught them. We're still rebuilding our relationship too. Some wounds heal slowly, and trust, once broken, doesn't mend overnight. But we talk weekly now. Sometimes about finances. Sometimes about our parents. Sometimes just about life. The conversations aren't always easy, but they're real in a way they haven't been since we were kids. Last month, Madison called with news that brought tears to my eyes. "We're finally cash flow positive," she announced proudly, using terminology she'd learned from me. "And we've started an emergency fund. 3 months of expenses, just like you taught us." "I'm so proud of you," I told her, and I meant it. "I couldn't have done it without you," she replied. "Not just the money, but the knowledge. You gave me something no one else would have. Honesty, wrapped in love." As I reflect on our journey, I realize that the true vindication wasn't in Madison needing my help or in proving I had become successful. It was in reclaiming my own worth, in standing firm in my values even when offering assistance. Sometimes the best revenge isn't cutting people off or gloating when they fail. Sometimes it's showing them a better way forward, not from a place of superiority, but from a place of authenticity. If my story has resonated with you in any way, I hope you'll subscribe to hear more. Whether you're building financial independence, healing from family wounds, or just trying to live more authentically, remember that your worth isn't determined by others' approval. The moment you truly believe that is the moment everything changes. And to my sister Madison, if you're watching this, I love you. Not the version of you that tries to impress others, but the real you, flawed, learning, growing, just like me. Because in the end, the greatest wealth isn't in our bank accounts or investment portfolios. It's in the authentic connections we build, the boundaries we honor, and the person we become when we finally stop seeking external validation and start living our truth. That's a kind of richness no one can ever take away from you.